Hello boys and girls, my name is White Rhino PSO, and today we've got yet another bonus video for Morrowind. We have two documents to read today, Dagoth-Ur's plans and the plan to defeat Dagoth-Ur. I was originally going to read them at the end of the last video, but then I realized just how long they were, and so here we are. Let's get started with Dagoth-Ur's plans. Dagoth-Ur's plans. The following documents were prepared by temple scholars and agents of the Inquisition for Lord Vivec. From interrogation of captured sleepers and other Sixth House cultists. From study of manuscripts written by cultists and victims of dream-induced mania. From interviews with Lord Vivec concerning historical campaigns against Red Mountain, and from broad conjectures and inferences made upon these materials, this is our best estimate of Dagoth-Ur's motivations and objectives in this most recent phase of his war upon Morrowind. Basic objectives. Establish a theocracy in Morrowind based on the worship of the newborn god Akulakan, the Second Numidium, to be created by Dagoth-Ur from the heart of Lorkhan, and a body constructed according to the principles and rituals pioneered by the Dwemer Kagrenak. So, this part here seems kind of hypocritical because Dagoth-Ur seems to hate the Tribunal, who are people who use the heart of Lorkhan to turn themselves into gods, and meanwhile Dagoth-Ur is planning to basically make a giant Dwemer golem and then power it with the heart of Lorkhan, which, in case it hasn't been mentioned before, the heart of Lorkhan is the physical heart of an actual god being, like, I'm pretty sure on the same level as the Daedra and the Aedra themselves, like the big named ones, like Azura herself, that for whatever reason, the heart is in the center of the the Red Mountain volcano. He also wants to establish the ancient heirs of House Dagoth as the god priests of Akulakan, and the Sixth House of Dagoth-Ur as the dominant political power in Morrowind. Through charismatic conversion, unite the Dunmer under the guidance of Dagoth-Ur to battle against the foreign animals who hold Morrowind in subjection. Note, Dagoth-Ur has apparently adopted the views and motivations of the Dwemer High Craft Lord Kagrenak. In effect, he recapitulates the ancient blasphemous folly of the Dwemer. I'm not entirely sure what the motivations of Kagrenak were. Basically that he wants to do stuff with the heart, but I have a feeling that whoever wrote this document for Vivec didn't realize that the Tribunal were basically doing the same thing, using the power of the heart for, I don't know if I'd really say their own gain, but they were doing it to help other people, but they were also, turning themselves into gods, effectively. Number 2, expose the false worship of the Tribunal and destroy the ecclesiastical authority and political power of the temple. How much the dissident priests of the or the cult of the Nerevarine may be controlled or influenced by the Sixth House is in this regard is open to speculation. So, whoever wrote this document also seems to think that the dissident priests and the cult of the Nerevarine may just be part of Dagoth-Ur trying to undermine the authority of the Tribunal Temple. Number 3, extirpate? I'm not sure what that word means. All remaining individuals of inferior and mongrel races from Morrowind, so basically anyone that's not a Dark Elf. Number 4, drive the Empire from Morrowind. A lot of people seem to dislike the Empire in Elder Scrolls games. Number 5, recover ancient territories stolen by Skyrim and Argonia. So, first of all, I'm pretty sure in later games they refer to it as Black Marsh, not Argonia, but it could be two separate places. Secondly, I'm not sure if Skyrim and Argonia / Black Marsh stole land from the area of Morrowind, or if they were given that land by the Empire in the past. Number 6, extend the worship of Akulakan to all nations of Tamriel through subversion and conquest. So, after making their giant god golem, and then kicking everybody out of Morrowind, and then taking land back from Skyrim and Argonia, he then wants to use that god to basically take over the world. Plans to establish and expand the 6th house. Phase 1. Secure Red Mountain against tribunal intruders. Deny tribunal access to the heart, weakening the temple while securing Red Mountain for the creation of Akulakan. Keep the construction of Second Numidium a secret. Well, obviously that last part didn't work terribly well, but I guess Dagoth-Ur does know that the tribunal, or did know at the time, that the tribunal were powering themselves with the heart of Lorkhan. Though this also suggests that whoever wrote this document also knew that, which seems a little weird compared to some of the other things they mentioned earlier on. Phase 2. Create passive servants in ever-widening circles around Red Mountain by broadcasting compulsions couched in dream imagery to susceptible subjects in their sleep. Establish a major operational base at Kogorun, which we actually took that place out as part of I want to say part of the 3rd trial for the Urshalaku Ashlanders, for further operations in the Ash Wastes. Establish smaller bases near small port villages and in lower-class waterfront districts in Vivek. We actually also dealt with a small 6th house base on the west coast. I'm not sure what the name of the town was. I always get confused between Narmok and Margan, but we did take out a base over on the west coast. Infiltrate and subvert smuggling syndicates. I haven't seen any proof of that myself. Recruit willing followers from disaffected populations, including the underworld, the poor, and rabid anti-imperial activists. Phase 3. Expand from smaller bases to other towns and villages, and recruit and indoctrinate subjects made susceptible by dream sendings. That would explain why there are occasionally sleepers who harass you in towns. Occupy abandoned towers and ruins, and train corrupted cultists as raiders and irregular troops. Identify, discredit, and decimate possible sources of political resistance. My brother loves to remind me that the word decimate actually has a specific meaning of removing 10% or killing 10% of a population. So as much as the word seems great when talking about, just the straight destruction of a group of people, it apparently does have an actual meaning. Anyway, Phase 4, use assassination and terror to weaken, distract, and disrupt the legions and the imperial bureaucracy, along with their Hlalu sympathizers. Inspire popular uprisings of the native poor against the foreign rich and powerful. Summon sleepers and dreamers to Dagoth-Ur to work on Second Numidium. So while he's basically brainwashing people to come and work on his giant golem, he's also trying to convince the poor people that are native to the area of Morrowind and Vardenfell to get rid of any of the rich people who happen to be foreign. Inferring Dagoth-Ur's perspective. Dagoth-Ur thinks on a large timescale, for the most part in the outside of timescale of the divine consciousness. He thinks that only obstacles of mythic scale are worth consideration. He believes he is fated to rule Morrowind, to free Morrowind of the Empire, and to become the new, hard-loving father of Morrowind. Given that perspective, the only opposing forces Dagoth-Ur worries about are the Tribunal, the Daedra, the Emperor, and the Incarnate. With the Tribunal's loss of Sunder and Keening, and with the diminishing resources of Vivek, Elmalexia, and Sothasil, Dagoth-Ur believes he has permanently gained a decisive strategic advantage. On a mortal timescale, the battle may last for centuries, but the outcome is not in doubt, and a Kulakan may be a device for dramatically reducing the timescale for a decisive victory. Jesus. So yeah, he basically, the only people he believes are a threat are the Tribunal, Daedra, Emperor, and us. And he thinks he's already dealt with the Tribunal because he's taken Sunder and Keening, so he's stopped them from powering themselves off of the heart. The myth of dynamic invincibility of the Emperor and the Empire has long been an unquantifiable and intimidating threat, but recent rumors of unrest in Cyrodiil, of the Emperor's failing health, and the unsettled question of the succession have diminished the scale of that threat. Nonetheless, the revelation that the Nerevarine is a pawn of Imperial intelligence, hand-picked and sent to Morrowind by the Emperor himself, may cause Dagoth considerable anxiety. So, the Emperor's health is failing, and there is unrest in Cyrodiil, so he doesn't really consider the Empire a threat, but what he does consider a threat is the fact that the Emperor himself, hand-picked our character to send to Morrowind as the Nerevarine. That's something that even I keep forgetting on occasion, is that the Emperor himself decided, hey, this Argonian girl needs to go to Morrowind because they're going to be part of big things over there. The Daedra represent no coherent obstacle to Dagoth. Nonetheless, their personal abilities and their influence upon their fanatic followers is considerable. Their motives and actions obscure, and Dagoth remains concerned about them. So the Daedra aren't a specific threat, but they're very powerful, and that does worry him a little bit, but since they haven't really taken specific action against him, well, as far as he knows, then he doesn't seem to... That's not something that worries him in the here and now. I don't know if Dagoth realizes that Azura herself is helping us out. The Incarnate represents Saint Nerevar, a mythic force that has previously defeated Dagoth and Dagoth is obsessed with this threat. At the same time, Dagoth knew Nerevar personally, knew that he was a mortal man with faults and weaknesses. Dagoth may have some hope of seducing or negotiating with Nerevar's reincarnation. Further, when Nerevar and the Tribunal defeated Dagoth they were strong and allied. Now the Nerevarine and the Tribunal are weak, opposed, and divided. Therefore, though the Nerevarine and Tribunal represent the most serious threat to Dagoth plans, he still has good reason to believe that this time he will prevail. A recent timescale of Dagoth activities. Much of the following timescale is based on inference from incomplete information. So this is what they're assuming is basically Dagoth timeline, but they're not sure. Before the Second Era, 882, Dagoth and his kin lie dreaming beneath the sills of Red Mountain. I've heard of sills as in windowsills, but I don't think Red Mountain has any of those. Second Era, 882, Dagoth and his ash vampires awake, refreshed, and emerge from Lower Red Mountain into the Heart Chamber. Dagoth ritually binds himself and his brethren as Heart Whites in a ritual of his own devising. First stages of construction of Second Nubidium, conceived during the Long Sleep, are begun by Heart Whites and Atronak constructs in a chamber near the heart of Lorkhan. Keeping the Second Numidium project a secret from the temple is a high priority. So he wakes up, and as well as his ash vampires, which are other members of the Sixth House, he basically binds himself to the heart, as well as binds the Heart Whites to himself, I believe. And then they all start building the golem pretty much immediately, it looks like. That same year, the Tribunal arrive at Red Mountain for their annual ritual bathing in the Heart's power. Dagoth and Ash Vampires ambush the Tribunal. The Tribunes are driven away and prevented from restoring themselves with Kagranak's tools at the heart of Lorkhan. But Kagranak's tools are still currently in the possession of the Tribunal at this point. From the Second Era 882 to the Third Era 417, so at least 417 years. I'm not sure when the Second Era ended and the third one began. Intermittent Tribunal campaigns assault Red Mountain. The Tribunal and supporting forces seek to force access to the Heart Chamber, but are repeatedly driven back. Dagoth-Ur recruits sleepers and dreamers through dream sendings. Cultists are recruited through dream compulsion. Weaker cultists become corpus beasts. Stronger cultists advance through stages toward the power of the ascended sleepers. So it looks like I was right in the idea that when you become a sleeper, like you slowly... There's a sort of like set of steps between when he first gets you and when you become an ascended sleeper. And if you're lucky and you're powerful, you can make the entire trip to get up there. Otherwise, you end up as some of the mindless corpus beasts, or I guess just stuck at the lower stages, maybe forever. Third Era 400, so just before the apparent end of the fighting, Kogel Rune is reoccupied by Dagoth Uthal and fortified as an advance base for 6th House operations. Blight storms are more frequent and widespread. Soul sickness spreads in regions close to Red Mountain. So the corpus disease is now spreading out of the mountain, as are the horrible blight storms that play hell with my audio levels. I think we might have killed Dagoth Uthal already, because we did clear out the entirety of Kogel Rune when we were sent in there as part of the main quest. Third Era 410. 6 house bases founded near Nar Mok and in waterfront areas of Vivek. 6th House operatives exploit smuggler organizations and communications to spread their influence among victims unbalanced by Dagoth-Ur's dream sendings. So it's possible that the smuggler organizations just kind of like spread stories and talk about how the 6th House is great. I do seem to remember that you occasionally find ash statues in with smuggler loot when you go through like bandit caves and such. And it might have been Nar Mok itself that we took that base out near. Third Era 415, small cells of 6th House cultists in every town in Vardenfell. Larger 6th House operations are concealed in remote dungeons where creatures are bred and cultists are trained for the coming struggle. Third Era 417, here's a big one. Almalexia and Sotha Sil lose the artifacts Keening and Sunder to Dagoth, Odros, and Vemin. Vivek rescues Almalexia and Sotha Sil, but failing to recover Keening and Sunder, the Tribunal retreat from Red Mountain in disorder. Wait a minute. So, from 2nd Era 882 all the way to 3rd Era 417, the Tribunal have not been able to get back to the heart of Lorcan and basically recharge their power. So, that I didn't realize they were that low on their power. Surviving Buoyant Armiger companions know the Tribunal was forced to retreat, but do not know how serious a reversal the Tribunal has suffered. The 3 Tribunes return to their respective capitals and continue to perform their ritual functions. Each of the different members of the Tribunal does have like a city that they live in on their own. We're going to be visiting Almalexia and Sotha Sil's city in the Tribunal Temple expansion to this game. The Tribunes continue to grow weaker without access to the heart, and because of resources required to support the Ghost Fence. Yeah, the Ghost Fence is actually powered by the Tribunal themselves, so that's also a constant drain on their ability, as is the giant meteor or asteroid that is currently hovering above Vivek City. He didn't completely stop it. He just Vivek temporarily negated the force of it heading toward the planet. The inner circle of the of the temple priesthood has begun to suspect the tribunes have suffered seriously from wounds and demoralization in the wake of reverses at Red Mountain, but do not recognize the scale of the problem. Third Era, 426 to 427. I'm actually not offhandedly sure what the year is of the game right now. Campaign of Sixth House assassinations of prominent Imperial citizens and Hlalu Imperial sympathizers. Sudden increase in number and seriousness of attacks by cultists and victims deranged by soul sickness. I'm suddenly wondering if the Sixth House is behind the killing of the guy whose house we're currently living in up in Balmora. Noted with concern. Number 1, Dagoth can apparently perceive and communicate directly through his cultists. Sleepers and dreamers are often reported speaking as though with Dagoth voice and intention. I do seem to remember there was somebody, it might have been Dagoth Garez, or Dagoth Gary, who spoke to us directly as if he was Dagoth And finally, number 2, little is known about the features, scale, or stage of completion of Akulakan, the Second Numidium. No one has gained entrance to the Heart Chamber since the Second Era 282. So it was actually 6 years before Dagoth woke up was the last time anybody had been into the Heart Chamber. So it seems like 6 years is how long the Tribunal would spend between their recharges, which, given that it's a very long time since then, that is not good news. In the Third Era 417, Keening and Sunder were captured and may substantially aid in Akulakan's construction. Oh, Jesus, that took me about 20 minutes to read, so it's a good thing I decided to put it in its own thing. So now, the second thing we have to read is the actual plan to defeat Dagoth The plan to defeat Dagoth For the past 20 years, the Tribunal have tried unsuccessfully to execute this plan. However, we failed because we were required to stage an assault and simultaneously maintain the Ghost Fence to prevent the threatened large-scale breakout of Dagoth blighted hosts. With the Nerevarine leading the assault, and the Tribunal free to devote their full energies to maintaining the Ghost Fence, this plan has a greater chance of success. Unfortunately, however, the loss of the artifacts Sunder and Keening, and the recent increase of Dagoth strength, poses new problems for the execution of the plan. So, basically, they're claiming that, hey, because we have to keep the Ghost Fence going, we can't really go and kill Dagoth ourselves, so why don't you do it? Personally, I think that if they just shut off the Ghost Fence, maybe if they surrounded the entirety of the Ghost Fence with, like, as many Imperial soldiers as they could, and as many Ordinators and Buoyant Armigers as they could, then they could probably keep that back while also personally taking out Dagoth but that wouldn't really make for a very good first-person role-playing game. Therefore, our proposed plan has the following 5 phases. Number 1, a series of aggressive raids to scout inside the Ghost Fence. Number 2, a series of aggressive raids to neutralize Dagoth Ash Vampire kin and recover artifacts from the bodies of his kin. Number 3, an assault on Gate Citadel Veminal to neutralize Dagoth Vemin and recover the artifact Hammer Sunder. Number 4, an assault on Gate Citadel Audrosal to neutralize Dagoth Audros and recover the artifact Blade Keening. And number 5, an assault on Citadel Dagoth with the artifacts Wraithguard, Sunder, and Keening to sever Dagoth connection to the heart of Lorcan and thus destroy Dagoth So, dipping further into what each of those phases mean, raids inside the Ghost Fence. The Tribunal Ordinators and Buoyant Armigers are familiar with the terrain and will provide maps and current intelligence reports. The region inside the Ghost Fence is dangerous, and the Nerevarine will need to be familiar with its particular challenges. After measuring skill and resources against Dagoth defenses, the Nerevarine will know better how to pace a campaign, alternating raids with improving skill, getting better equipment, and stockpiling resources. Number 2, raids upon the citadels. Dagoth-Ur's kin have become markedly more powerful in recent decades, after remaining stable for thousands of years. If they can be individually isolated and destroyed, they will not be able to support Dagoth-Ur in later stages of the war. It may also be that the dramatic increase in their power comes from items enchanted by Dagoth-Ur. Salvage of such items might contribute to our resources. Now, I had originally considered skipping some of this, because really all you need is Wraithguard, Keening, and Sunder. But I just now remembered, while reading through this, that Dagoth-Ur is actually more powerful if you leave more of his buddies alive. So if I go through and kill all of them, it'll make Dagoth-Ur himself a much weaker foe to fight in the eventual, I guess, ultimate confrontation. So I guess we will be stepping through each of their homes to take them out before going after the big man himself. Phase 3, Assault on Gate Citadel Veminal. Essential to recover the artifact Hammer Sunder for Phase 5, the Ash Vampire Dagoth Vemin has possession of Sunder, and probably seeks to discover the secrets of its enchantments. Jesus Christ. He may also have access to notebooks and journals of Kagranak that have survived in the Dwemer workshops of Veminal. And also the same with Audrasol, essential to recovering Keening for Phase 5. The Ash Vampire has possession of Keening and probably seeks to discover the secrets. May also have notebooks and journals. So these are the two that we definitely need to do, is Veminal and Audrasol. I'm not sure if I'll go after them first or the other ones first. And Phase 5, Assault on Citadel Dagoth. All the previous stages are preparations for this stage. Recent expeditions show that Citadel Dagoth has undergone extensive expansion. The location will need to be explored carefully. The known route to the Heart Chamber will be well defended. Alternative routes may exist. Dagoth-Ur will have anticipated our plan to destroy him by attacking the heart, and he will almost certainly personally oppose approach to the Heart Chamber. Together, the Tribunal could not defeat him, and he has grown stronger since then. Admittedly, the Tribunal had the distraction of maintaining the Ghost Fence, simultaneous with fighting Dagoth-Ur, but even so, the challenge seems daunting. Jesus, I'm not even halfway through. The adoption of this phased campaign seems to offer the best chances for success. In retrospect, the Tribunal's decision to directly assault Citadel Dagoth rather than proceed step by step through lesser objectives must be seen to have been a serious error. The Tribunal did not feel it had the option of a slow-paced and deliberate campaign, given that they had many other competing priorities, not the least of which was the maintenance of the Ghost Fence and the outer defenses surrounding Red Mountain. The Nerevarine, on the other hand, should be best served by a careful step-by-step advance, with the additional advantage of building confidence along the way, with successes that would undermine Dagoth-Ur's own assurance in his defenses. So basically, every step that we take that's a success is going to make us feel better and make Dagoth-Ur feel worse. Employing Kagranak's tools against Dagoth-Ur. The source of Dagoth-Ur's supernatural power is the Heart of Lorkhan. The heart is also the source of the Tribunal's divine powers. During mythic times, the gods took and hid Lorkhan's heart beneath Red Mountain as a punishment for creating the mortal plane. I don't think I realized that. The Dwemer discovered the heart while building underground colonies. High Craft Lord Kagranak created enchanted tools intending to tap the power of the heart. The War of the First Council was fought to prevent this sacrilege. So the whole war between the elves and the dwarves were because the elves wanted to keep the dwarves from trying that. Kagranak's use of these tools and the disappearance of the dwarven race marked the end of the war. Kagranak's tools were recovered by Lord Nerevar and Dagoth-Ur. Dagoth-Ur was left to guard the tools while Nerevar came to consult with us, his advisors. In Nerevar's absence, Dagoth-Ur experimented with the tools upon the heart and was corrupted. We returned to discover a deranged Dagoth-Ur who refused to turn over the tools. When he attacked, we drove him away. We left Red Mountain with the tools, and subsequently Sothasil discovered their secrets. Collectively, we used the tools to establish a connection with the heart, enabling ourselves to transform our mortal natures. Thus, we became the Tribunal. So far, it does seem like Vivek is telling us the true final story. I'm not sure if he's telling the truth about what happened with Indoril Nerevar, but he seems like he's being honest here. Dagoth had survived our attacks, and without the tools, in a manner not well understood, Dagoth also managed to establish a connection with the heart and to transform himself into an immortal being. Our plan to destroy Dagoth also runs the risk of destroying the Tribunal. The plan is to permanently disrupt Kagranak's enchantments upon the heart, severing connections with Dagoth and ourselves, and rendering us all once again mortal. A mortal Kagranak may then be What? I think that's a typo. A mortal Dagoth may then be destroyed by mundane means. The loss of godhood and the possible death of the Tribunal are judged a necessary risk and sacrifice. The normal procedure for establishing connection with the heart is a 3-step process. The wearer of Wraithguard, which is the thing that he gave us just before the end of the last video, strikes the heart with the hammer Sunder, causing the heart to produce a pure tone. Then the wearer of the Wraithguard strikes the heart with the blade Keening, shattering the pure tone into a prism of tone shades. These tone shades are then imprinted upon the substance of the wearer of Wraithguard, giving him an immortal and divine nature. Now, that all has to do with, sound crafting, which I think was one of the big things that the dwarves were into. The Nerevarine will not be taught the secret rituals required to perform the 3rd step. Instead, the Nerevarine will strike the heart with Keening for a 2nd time, causing its tones to diverge into unstable patterns of interference. Further repeated strikes with Keening will further disrupt the tones, with the ultimate result of shattering and dispelling Kagranak's original enchantments binding the heart, thereby severing the heart's links with Dagoth and with any surviving heart wights, and with the Tribunal. Destroying Kagranak's enchantments on the heart will also stop the corrupt effusion of the heart's divine power and end the blight on Morrowind. The Nerevarine may be tempted to steal the power of the heart. Dagoth and Sothasil alone know this secret. Dagoth may, in extremity, propose to teach the Nerevarine to use Kagranak's tools to become a god. We doubt that the Nerevarine is fool enough to trust Dagoth and are content to take this risk. Be warned, the Nerevarine cannot safely equip either Keening or Sunder unless wearing Wraithguard. The Nerevarine will be injured every moment while holding either of these artifacts unless protected by Wraithguard. Persistence will be rewarded with death. If Nerevarine can equip an item while not wearing Wraithguard and receive no injury, the item is a counterfeit. One last note, Dagoth must not get hold of Wraithguard. The Nerevarine must prepare and use a recall or Almzivi intervention if there is any risk of death or capture. So yes, Keening and Sunder, if you hold them or equip them, will constantly do damage to you until you die, unless you're wearing Wraithguard. And right now, I'm really hoping that Wraithguard will not interfere with the gauntlet that gives me the plus 20 strength, because that would suck to have to put Wraithguard on and then immediately not be able to move because of how much weight I'm carrying. The element of surprise. Dagoth will not expect you to destroy Kagranak's enchantments on the heart. He does not know it is possible. He would not do it himself, and he knows we have never tried it. He will not believe anyone would want to sacrifice the promise of such power. Further advancements in House Dagoth, as in all great houses, is by challenge and confrontation within the hierarchy. The Nerevarines' challenges and defeats of ash vampires and battles with the 6th house will be viewed in that light. So, they're hoping that Dagoth will just see us killing off his buddies as us trying to become more powerful within view of the 6th house. Dagoth and his kin may assume the Nerevarines' ambition is to control the heart. Given that assumption, it is only reasonable that the Nerevarine would try to defeat each of Dagoth subordinates in turn, working up to Dagoth If the Nerevarine can defeat Dagoth and control the heart, so much the better. But logically, the Nerevarine would wish rise as high would wish rise as high in the hierarchy as possible before cutting a deal with the head of the house. Dagoth should try to recruit the Nerevarine into House Dagoth. It may be possible to pretend to join him and then betray him. However, any attempt to deceive him will be very risky. House Dagoth has a tradition of subterfuge and treachery, and because he is a deceiver, he will expect deception. Finally, the closing remarks. We place no compulsion upon the Nerevarine to adhere to the plans described here. We believe that they offer the best chance for destroying Dagoth, but we have also chosen to place our trust in the Nerevarines' judgment and skill. Frankly, we see no alternative. If there are doubts or questions, speak with Vivek. He has agreed to serve as the Nerevarines' guide and counselor for this campaign. It may be that if the Nerevarine succeeds, the tribunal will not survive. Such sentiments as might have been expressed to the tribunal should, in that case, be addressed to the land and people of Morrowind. That sentence I'm having trouble wrapping my head around, so moving on. May the happy convergence of fortune and prayer meet in our destiny. On behalf of Lady Almalexia and Lord Sothasil, Vivek. Alright, Jesus Christ. So that was a lot more lore than reading and lore than I thought I would need to go through. But it appears that our next task is going to be to speak to the Buoyant Armigers and the Ordinators, probably over in the Ghost Gate itself, to figure out where the different people are in here. Oh, there's Audrasal and there's Veminal. So we can start killing us some Ash Vampires. And despite the fact that this video is technically meant to be a bonus video, given how long it is, and I think I'm going to set it up as a normal video. Maybe not. But anyway, as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.